Hello and welcome to the Mysticast, where you join me, Jack Stafford, a student of metaphysics, as I talk to a variety of guests to better understand the teachings given by the Masters through the Ethereal Society, the new cosmic religion for the Aquarian Age, incorporating all yogas, Christian mysticism, theosophy, UFOs, and much, much more. Please note that this is an independent podcast, not produced or fact-checked by the Ethereal Society. Today, my guest is Susan Gash, a psychic and instructor at the College of Psychic Studies in London, among many other things. Am I right, Susan?
Hi, Jack. But yes, I'm doing a few things here. They're all kind of weaving together.
Great. Well, I've just come from a busy day, so I'm not in the headspace to talk to you. I know you live in this headspace, so maybe you can help me just to start the interview
Sure.
out, get me into that space by telling us a little bit about yourself, what you do, what motivates you, how you got to where you are now. Please.
Okay, yeah. So I like to say in my past life, in this life, I was in the performing arts. So I know you're a musician, Jack, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and had the great fortune to work with all kinds of musicians and artists. So I was a dancer and had my own dance company, and so that has been my first love. But also as I matured as a choreographer, I saw that my work was the themes that we worked with were really giving voice to women's issues. We were an all women's company. We weren't a feminist company per se, but it just happened to be that way. So over time, as I was finishing that career, um, my work, I started to do movement workshops for women, and I was doing them with themes of the seasons and the rhythms. And so the element of spirituality, or what we could say spirituality, was always part and parcel in the work. But then it started to steer more clearly that direction with that, which became a transition. At the time, I didn't know. I was teaching, at the university, performing, touring. Um, and then one day heard this voice, I'd like my life back. And I thought, wow. And I was on the way to the theater for a premiere performance weekend. And I thought, that's the strangest thing I've ever heard, because this is my life and I love my life, right? So I heard that little voice, came in. I was sitting out in my back garden at the time, and I put some music on and I danced around in the living room. And I thought, wow, it's like a child. Like, I was so happy. Something stirred in me that, even though I didn't really understand at the moment, or how was this going to happen? What was my life if this wasn't my life? I felt very, very happy about that. And that was the moment. That was the moment where a shift really did consciously come to me. And then, of course, it took a good year and a half, 2 years.
Wow.
And in the meantime, I fell across a beautiful teacher who I worked with for 7 years before she passed over, and Dr. Verna Yater, and did a lot of clearing work with her. And she worked with groups as well, and then was introduced to the Spirit Doctor team. And that's how I met them, through her.
And did you have any psychic abilities before? Or this was the first experience when you heard this voice?
I would say probably from my work in the arts, following my intuition, and working in that sort of dream world way, creating art and creating pieces, but not per se, not in certain terms of hearing or seeing visions or things like that. No.
And now, then, if you don't mind me asking, what level are you at? What?
Good
That's a
question.
very,
Well, we're
very
constantly
that's what a personal question is. That. So,
we're constantly evolving, for sure. But I've arrived to a place where I feel confident enough in my own work that I was able to begin this practitioner program, which is training other people to do this work that I do with the Spirit Doctor team. And that came in 2019. And again, it was a moment. It was happening right over the New Year's, from 2018 to 2019. And I always tell this funny story because my husband and I were having a little bit of a spit spat. So we kind of separated into spaces. And it ended up being a really good thing in that I had 3 days where I just allowed all this to download, which was the whole practitioner program, the whole format, the whole structure. And that was a request from the spirit doctors to say, okay, it's time now to have more people, what we call the ground crew. It's time to have more people doing this work and working with us to work with other people. And, I just followed the lead, followed the lead.
So please, yeah, tell me all about it. Tell me about the spirit doctors.
Yeah, well, they're a beautiful group they're multidimensional beings and they're on spirit side. But many of them were here in incarnation in physical bodies in the roles of physicians, healers, and shamans. And they united on spirit side and then continued to work with us from that level. And it's multidimensional beings in that they have access now to tools, future tools, and advanced technology that they didn't have access to at the time when they were here. But what I love to share about them is that because they've had human incarnations, they really have a lot of compassion for us, for what we go through, what emotions come, how our lives go, our obstacles, our blocks. And so they're very loving and very compassionate in whatever guidance they wants to come through. A lot of times for someone, for always insights and guidance will come through, even if that's not the main request of somebody. And then, of course, healing on all levels of one's being is always requested, because often people come for something that's ailing them, or they just feel unsure what the next step is, or yeah.
And how do the doctors communicate with you? Is it just a feeling, or do you get specific?
Well, it's interesting. And also, since I'm training practitioners, because it's different for everyone, we have let's say, a dominant sense that we work with. And for me, the spirit doctors, I can feel their presence. I've been able to see them, but only as a group. But my main connection with them is through hearing, through sound. So I hear them more or less. So they just, as I'm working with a client or with a group of people, information just comes through, and I just write furiously as it's happening. And so I'm able to, through the writing, I'm able to understand what they're doing on some levels with their hands, with light tools, and also, collecting the guidance that wants to come through. So that's always fascinating. I've learned so much from doing client sessions about them.
Do you hear them as a voice with a distinct, like, clairaudience? I mean, do you hear them, or is it or is it? How to describe it?
Yes, so the very first time I did, and I was receiving the work. It's when I was working with Dr. Werner Yater, and I was receiving the work, and I heard two of the physicians speaking about a person that was laying down next to me, because you lay down to receive the work. That's one way to receive it. You can also receive it sitting. But at that time, there was a big group of us, maybe 45. And as I was laying there, I heard the two physicians speaking about her, kind of consulting with each other, back and forth about the work they wanted to do with her. And it went between these really hushed sort of voices, and of course in English, I guess it's translated into my language in English, but I would hear them speaking, and then they would tone or sound a little bit, and then they'd speak, and then this toning, it was like mantras. It was beautiful. And why, I always say to, now when I'm working with people, why I never opened my eyes to see what was going on, but I didn't. I just listened. And when the session was over and I sat up, I immediately asked everybody around me, did you all hear that? And they did. Some of them did, to verify it. And so that was my first experience in hearing them. And now, as a practitioner of this work, I don't hear them in that way. I hear them through, I don't know how to say, through my mind's eye or something. Yeah.
That's so fascinating, because to compare notes, so I'm doing this as a member of the Ethereal Society, and the founder, Dr. George King, before he did his other work, he was became a teacher and also had another mission. But before that, before he became the voice, he wanted to be a healer. He was going to be a spiritual healer, and one of his great idols was Harry Edwards, who was a very famous healer in England, and I think he healed around 4 million people. And I I remember someone else has told me, another psychic, that people could see. So he did spiritual healing himself. So he did send through the power through the hands and I think, and then he also had doctors on the other realms working with him with the very advanced equipment, as you said, working on those people. And he would just go whip through people super fast. That's how he was able to do so many. And he also did a lot of remote healing. So yeah, it's just not the first time I've heard this, and so it really resonates with what you're saying.
I also, because I had these experiences early on, it was easy for me to sort of follow this path. So the other thing, I received surgery from them because I had had this long dance career, like 25 years, right? So
You
my
had
knee,
psychic surgery from
I,
doctors on another realm.
yes,
Okay, all right, wow.
yes, it was beautiful. So my colleagues in the dance world kept saying to me, Susan, at that point it was like, there's this new thing called laparoscopic surgery. It won't take long for you to heal from this. Go get this corrected in your knees. It's just things. And I was putting it off, of course. And then in one of these group healing events with Dr. Yater, I don't know if I put the request out. Well, the spirit doctors are always looking and always seeing what is in your best and highest. And once you say yes to receiving a healing, they have access to what some people call that Akashic record or soul
Yeah.
record. So they're looking at where we've come from, where we are, and where we might potentially be going.
And karmically, what is available to them?
Exactly.
It all comes
Exactly.
down to karma.
Yeah. So, anyway, in that particular session, I had surgery done on both my knees. Now, I didn't know it until I flew home. That was in another state. I was in the United States at the time. And a day later, I was getting a shower, and I went down and I went past my knees, and the vibration was so strong on both. I couldn't touch my knees. I was like, and then I realized something had happened, and so I called Dr. Yater and I said, I'm having this weird experience. And she said, oh, Susan, you had surgery done on your knee. So she said, just like that, and I'm like a newbie then. She said, just treat yourself like post-op, like don't go doing jumping jacks, don't run around,
Wow.
don't ride a bicycle, take it easy for the next couple days. I just did exactly that. And since then, whenever that was years ago, I've never had any pain in my knees. So beautiful, right?
Oh my God. So maybe you can just add another dimension here, because it's great to compare notes with you like this. Because
Yeah.
in the Ethereal Society, because when you say spirit doctors, with the spirits, some people seem to say spirits as in, yeah, kind of angels, which is like another thing. But we live on this realm. We live in the physical existence, and when we die, we go to another realm, which is exactly here at the same place, in the same space, but just at a different frequency of existence. So there can be matter, and consciousness can exist in exactly the same space. But so according to the Ethereal Society, each chakra is a different realm of existence, a different level of consciousness. So we have 6 above the root chakra and 4 below. And so if we go to the realm of desserts, we go to the level that we deserve. We will exist and we will continue to learn, and then we reincarnate there, reincarnate here, reincarnate there. And so on the higher realms, where obviously your doctors are working, they are more, time is slower. Also on the lower realms, and they are much more advanced than we are. Many things that have been invented there will eventually come here.
Yeah.
And so you're obviously benefiting from equipment that we haven't even imagined.
Yeah, it's amazing to see it in action. And it's a fascinating, when Verna first worked with a spirit doctor, she said their most difficult task was learning how to reach down through to this dimension. However, in light of that as well, one of the things about the practitioner program is that going through these 8, what I call the 8 key pillars of the program, but it's really about expanding oneself,
Okay.
Dimensionally expanding oneself to be able to receive the energies,
Be
frequencies,
able to
vibrations.
tune into their
Exactly.
what they're
We
trying
have
to
to
get out.
tune in.
Yeah.
And that's the first pillar actually, is tuning in. So
Mm.
it's just like that, like a little radio dial, the old-fashioned
Yeah.
ones, and we have a whole protocol for how we tune it with them, and then allow that to stream through us. And then also, fascinating as the work progresses, is that the practitioner, because I'm getting practitioners with different backgrounds, right? Whatever background they're bringing into the work, it also is expanding the team. So the spirit doctors have said, by you coming onto this team, being the ground crew, our work is expanded because they're bringing other skills. Two of the women that came through the first program were shamanic practitioners.
Mm.
So and such and so. So it's a fascinating. And they said they've said really clearly, we're expanding all the time. We're not just here, staying on one sort of level. We're expanding
So
ourselves.
the group soul is also getting bigger, and also probably the karmic influence
Oh,
as more
beautiful.
people
Yeah.
get involved. I'm just guessing. I'm sure.
Well, I think, yeah, you have a good sense of this, Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as you take one step towards them, they can take 2 steps towards you, and it's as above as
Oh,
below. If you're trying to contact the
yes.
dark spirits, they can only reach out. They can only come towards you, I think, if you try and tune into them. And it's
Yeah. If you have an opening, if
yeah,
there's an
exactly.
opening there. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
There was
And
one
so
down.
that's something special. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, please,
Well,
please.
I always tell the practitioners too, because I'm also a dowser, and that is one of the things we do, work with the dark side. Not work with it, but work to clear energies of the dark side. Is that this connection, this tuning in with the spirit doctors is a very sacred channel, and so there's no breach. There's no breach there when working with them, because people have come in and been a little bit concerned about that. If I open up myself, and honestly, well, not for the most part, but in some part, there are people who are too open, right?
Mm.
And things can happen.
Maybe I don't know, maybe in some ways you're less open because you're raising your vibration, you're raising your consciousness, you're looking up, so you're less likely to be distracted by the things that drag you down.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, very good point. Yeah, and it's maintaining that level, in your personal life, right?
Yeah.
But it all begins to interweave and intersect.
So in the Ethereal Society, we also do spiritual healing, where we imagine the white light coming down and we send it out through the
Mm.
palms of the hands and through the heart chakra. Also the same when we pray. It's exactly the same transfer of energy. Do you do that as well? Do you do laying on of hands and energy?
I don't do laying on of hands, but when we are able to be together, join together, which is a beautiful way to receive this work, in a group setting in particular, there is a protocol as a practitioner sort of does this tuning in and connecting, then approaches each person and does a very beautiful opening of the crown and over the heart, and allowing those energies to move through them, through the practitioner that they've tuned into, and then bring that into like what's kind of called casting a circle, around the client or the participant. And then they beautifully just fall back. That we always have someone to catch them. And it's such a beautiful symbol of surrendering, right? And
Yeah.
being open to receive. So I'm missing that on Zoom, of course. But then they were lied down gently and covered and pillows, and then they just get to stay as long as they need to. And people have remarkable experiences with them.
So you're
Mm.
doing Zoom sessions now where, as I understand it, you can't go, but to the spirit doctors is spaces of no problem.
Yes,
But
exactly.
so
We had
they're in
no.
the so they're in the room with the patient on the other side of wherever,
Exactly.
and
And you might appreciate this, Jack. So when I was first asked to do some online work, like, I don't know, 8 years ago or something, right? With the spirit doctors. And I said yes, because it's in one of our own teachings. I teach with my husband a lot too, Sven Carlson. And we always say, when an opportunity comes, say yes, right?
Yeah.
Say yes.
So, yeah.
And so I had this opportunity, and I was like, oh my God, I really don't know how that's going to work. So I'm just going to say yes to this and then figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So the spirit doctors came to me shortly after, and they were just like, we're online. We're already online. You need to get online. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's
Time
like
is,
it's like Zoom. You were but another level of it's
it's another level of Zoom. And that's a really fun thing that reminds me too. Once a client came and said, I realize I'm going to start this healing work. I've already started, but I don't want to have a web page. She just had this kind of resistance around. I said, okay. And the spirit doctors came in beautifully and said, you know what? Connect to the cosmic internet. It's 10,000 times more powerful than your internet that you have. But then on a practical level, I said, hey, why don't you just have a one page? You don't have to have a whole website, just so people can, when they get your card, they can go look at.
Yeah.
So that was fascinating. So it's just like, I also feel, speaking with you now, Jack, I kind of made the intention to open the faucet a little bit for allowing this call to go out to whoever, will feel the call to be the next group that comes in to train in this work.
Well, I'm sure you're going to get some interest because I'm getting this. I can tell you're onto the real deal here. And Dr. King, he was so one of the. I was just going to ask you if you knew some of the doctors in their last incarnation, because Dr. King, he was able to project astrally. He could go to the other realms. Just go to the hospitals and speak to the other. And one of the peoples he worked with, there was Sir Oliver Lodge, who was quite a famous scientist in England.
Oh my God, that sounds fascinating. No, I would be open to experiencing something like that. It's not something I do. We do have a what came in on the first round of the practitioner training, because it was sort of setting the template. It was a very small program of 5 people. The healing temple more or less appeared for us. It was like the pillars were there, and then all of a sudden it was like everything came into place, and there was a beautiful healing temple, much like what you would imagine a traditional temple,
The
classical
Greek
temple.
temple with the pillars.
Yes, exactly. And they said, here you can meet with us here in this beautiful sacred container. This is where we love to work. It's been here for eons of time, and it resides in the etheric levels. And then they said, okay. And so we go there and do the work there. And often we'll bring a client there. And it's in itself, because a lot of other healers sort of come through there. And the spirit doctors we'll call them in, but sometimes they bring in collaborating partners as needed. They have worked with the white rose quite frequently.
What's the white rose?
The white rose is just the literal rose that we have here, in flowers.
Okay.
And it has a very, very, at the highest vibration of the flower kingdom, the flower world.
Really? I've got white roses full in my garden. I didn't realize.
You do? Oh, how beautiful. Well, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, so I call her she. She will come in and work with them sometimes. And
a divic spirit? Is that a diva? A nature spirit?
I don't know. I just know it's the energy, what I always just refer to as the energy or the frequency of the white rose comes in. And she just brings in vast amounts of unconditional love that is really, and grace and beauty. She brings that in. It's kind of like a saturation. Wow. So it really sets a really beautiful tone for the group.
So if people, are you doing, as well as doing teaching, are you up, if people want to have a healing session, are you available online for that as well?
Yes, I do private sessions, but also now we have a really good list of practitioners too, which is great because the work is expanding.
Well, we'll put a list in the show notes and at the bottom in the description of the video.
Oh, perfect.
To get people there, because I'm sure that's something. And just when you were talking about the temple, I was thinking of how Facebook have changed their name to Meta now, and everyone's talking about the metaverse, and people want to do, like Second Life, they wear the headphones and they want to get sort of beyond internet, and everyone's looking forward to connecting. This is the next thing. And I'm thinking that's moving away from, and you're on a, if that's metaverse, I mean, we're doing metaphysics. I mean, you're on a complete level.
Yeah, we need a new Facebook, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
yeah.
I think so.
It's
Yeah.
evolution versus involution, I think is probably an apt term.
And that I love about this work, that it's ever evolving, right? And
Yeah.
it is evolving in a really organic fashion for me, which is good, you know. I mean, I do like to get, as I like to say, get the ball rolling with things, you know. I have that sense about equality or however to initiate programs and things. But in terms of how this is developed, it's so organic and so perfectly so ready to complete like a level and then expand myself again, right? And then take it to the next level. So when the College of Psychic Studies asked me to bring the practitioner program to the college, again, you know, I said, let me think about it. And it really wasn't. I have a beautiful relationship with them for years now. It was just that, oof, you know, I know what that means. I know if I do that, that the program's going to expand. Obviously, they have a really international mailing list. And I really had to sit with it. I mean, I knew eventually I was going to get to yes.
Yeah.
But I was,
Metabolize it.
you know, I had to kind of assimilate and metabolize it exactly. And so that took me a couple of weeks. And of course, the director is, you know, was beautiful and said, we will give you all the support, you know, you need.
Yeah.
And I have a beautiful assistant working with me. So as the numbers grow and participants, you know, I have help.
Oh, you're going to find assistants will come to you and everyone will take over different parts. And once you build something
Yeah.
like this, that's fascinating because that's what originally drew me into because of the College of Psychic Studies, because I was very interested in that. It's such an old organization in London.
Yeah.
Have you been there?
Yes, all the work I did up till this last 2 years was in person there. So I was living in Ecuador. I don't know if I shared that
No.
for 10 years prior to coming here to Spain. And so I was coming to the college from Ecuador, which was a long, long journey. We were living kind of really remote in the Andes Mountains. And of course, spirit world was just part of everyday living there. I mean, we ended up having a farm, a beautiful farm with all these gorgeous animals, and we're doing our healing work there. But it, you know, again, organically unfolded. It wasn't something we said, let's go to Ecuador and have a farm. You know, it wasn't like that. But the spirit world was so strong there. I mean,
I've
there
heard of
wasn't,
that South America, so many parts
oh,
of South America.
yeah. I mean, just daily visitations. And I know you were speaking about UFOs as well. I mean, many, many
Really?
UFOs that we saw and that actually came onto our property even. We were
Really?
living on the top of a mountain, very remote, you know, like the stars would come out and you feel like you could just touch them, right? It was beautiful. Yeah.
Where in
Oh,
Ecuador? Whereabouts?
um, in the southern province of Loja
Okay.
and in the Andes Mountains. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's where a part of the Spirit Doctor team came in and expanded. And there are the physicians, the healers that are with the team. There's a group called the Earth Shamans, and they appeared. They're an integral part of the team now, but they appeared when I was living. They came as part of the team when I was living in Ecuador, and that, you know, made sense actually. As I'm having experiences, then I think the team allows me to experience more with them. And then the cosmic shamans came in to work with the spirit doctors.
Okay.
And they have never been on the earth plane. And they made that very clear. And they work with sound and breath when they come in and work.
And
Sound
color?
and breath. People see colors a lot with this work, but I've never seen color. I've heard them. I mean, sometimes beautifully just with the breath just blowing into the crown
Okay.
of someone, you know, just as a clearing kind of sanctifying breath. The earth shamans are very much, many of them were here on the earth plane, and they work very ceremonially. So they work with the elements. And when they were first all coming together, it's like the physicians that were on the team would like step back, and then the earth shamans would do their work, and then they would step back, you know, and then the physicians would come back and finish a session. And then eventually it all just integrated. So for me, the way that I see them and work with them is that they're just coming, going as needed. They're always present. but they have a very different energy and a different way of working. The spirit doctors can be really funny. They have a really great sense of humor. They like to say funny little things in the midst of things, where the earth shamans are, very few words, very few words. And then the cosmic shamans are just, they don't come often. And the first time they came for the work was when I was working with a friend of mine who is a shaman. And they came in and to work with him and then became part of the team. So that was a fascinating experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess because you're moving up in the hierarchy and you're developing a hierarchy underneath you, there's levels of karma that they can move in, and the people you're allowed access probably to more
Yeah, I guess
healing.
so. Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Because that's the way it should. Because I'm into Ayurveda,
Oh, I love that.
many
Mm.
times, and also many friends interested in the shamanic healing, and everyone says it should be integrated. You should have the best of Western medicine and the best of
Yes,
Eastern, or you should have sometimes. You got to be able to go through a hospital. If it really was about the patient, it should be more like that. You get the holistic healing for this, maybe some
exactly.
trauma. You need surgery and intervention, or there should be this flow between all the different fields, man.
I know, but integrated peace. I think we're going there. We're going there. We just have to get through this period of time
Yeah.
where things are kind of chaotic and falling apart.
Well, I guess the higher realms of the future, so be
Yes,
positive.
exactly. I'm totally positive about it. Well, just to tell you about the college a little bit, because when I went for the first time, well, it's kind of like a second home. So when you're working there, if you come from out of town, you get to stay up on the fourth floor. So you're in the building.
Where
Have
is
you
this?
been in London?
Oh wait, sorry. Let's be back to the college. Yeah, sorry.
Ah, sorry.
College
Yeah,
of Psychic Studies. Yeah, sorry.
yeah.
You're flipping between the realms, and we're flipping between countries
Sorry.
here. And
We can go back. We can go anywhere you want,
I,
Jack. I just
I'm
got
st-
excited to
I'm trying to
tell.
keep track of it, things. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
oh my gosh, yeah.
We're in London. Okay, we're in London on the
We're in
physical
London.
realm.
We're in the
Okay.
physical realm, 2016. Okay, so when I came in and I was brought in to do a day workshop with the spirit doctor team and some kind of a lecture event, which was really very difficult, challenging for me. That's not, but I managed to do it. But so that evening, the first night, so I thought I was kind of connecting with the spirit doctors. I said, okay, we better connect because this big group's coming tomorrow for this this big day event. And it was really an interesting thing. They were like, well, we're downstairs in the main salon room. There's a beautiful main salon room where they do lectures in the library. And we're having a salon meeting with with the spirits of the college. And many of them were some of the founders of the college.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, but I'm up there, the fourth floor. I said, oh, they were like, well, we'll be with you later, but we're having a really, really, and I'm like, how's it going? They're like, oh, it's fabulous. We're getting along beautifully. And so they did this really interesting meet up and greet kind of thing.
Holy moly.
It was interesting. And then I also know from the dowsing work, the dowsing perspective, that building that the college is in with the history that they have,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's so beautiful. That building is in itself a portal, a beautiful light portal. That's a
Mm.
gateway to spirit world. And so when you're in there, you really feel that if you tune into it. And
Well, I've
so
never been there. I want to go, but
oh yeah, you have to go. They have a great library.
yeah,
Great.
because it was founded by, was it Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and I think Sir Oliver Lodge and other people. I don't have the wiki page open in front of me, but
Oh,
it
good.
goes way back now. I mean,
I
God,
think
it
it's
goes,
like 130 years now.
yeah, because when I study that period, science has kind of devolved. No, I mean, back then, in that late 19th century period, the scientists were really into exploring the connection with the spirit world
Yeah.
and the life after death. And I think Sir Oliver Lodge wrote a book about it, that it's scientifically proven that consciousness continues. And I think it's like after every renaissance there needs to be a dark age, and we kind of have these cycles. So
Yeah.
it's amazing how we've taken a step back from that period.
It's true, and I discovered that back you know what, maybe 100 years ago or at the turn of the last century, that there were Ayurvedic hospitals in London and all across the United States.
Really? I didn't know
Ayurvedic
that.
hospitals, yeah. And once allopathic medicine came in strong and, the strong way that they did, all those schools and hospitals just got closed.
That's
Fascinating.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
because I
think, yeah, you're right. It's now this period we're coming out of that.
mm,
And people are really starting to understand that,
yeah, I think hopefully that you need to go to a crisis situation and well, anyway, let's
Yeah.
not get too into that.
No, let's not.
Yeah,
uh,
but isn't that fascinating? So
yeah.
because when also in the Ethereal Society, when we pass over, one of the benefits of membership in society is that you get met by a guide, and they will take you, they will help you be. And it's apparently when you die, it can be like being dropped into like Delhi, New Delhi, and being lost and trying to find your way around. So there is a big benefit there that being a member of the society. Also, you're helping karmically with many missions. But what I thought would be interesting for you to know is that there's
Yes.
one of the conditions is that you get met and you get helped and you get taken
That's
around.
amazing, Jack, because that's the kind of circuitry that's available to us,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's what's available.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So, so how do you understand the other realms like that? That there are these different realms, and um,
You
what is
know,
your understanding of the spirit world?
I think there's lots of, like, we speak of dimensions, right? And I think there's lots of dimensions. But because I'm also a dowser and we teach dowsing, we simplify it. So we simplify it to say, yes, we're here in the third dimension, although we're not so much in the third dimension anymore. Really, honestly, the whole planet isn't. We're all, I mean, that ascension process is happening.
Right. Okay.
And then we talk about the fourth dimension, where we would say spirits exist, or ghosts exist, or entities exist. And then we have the fifth dimension that we could just call heaven, right?
Yeah.
So this is how simplified we make it
Is
to,
that why they do it? Because I'm a bit confused by that 3D,
yeah,
4D, 5D. So is
yeah.
that why they do it to simplify it?
To simplify it, and also to be able to understand how to work with dowsing as a tool.
Right.
Yeah. And also past lives, this current life, past lives, future potential lives, and also what we call imprinted lives. So that we may think that we may have only had seven incarnations physically here, but we may have gotten the imprint of the energy of another life. That's kind of, in my thinking, the imprinted life is to give you more access to more resources, more information, more experience, but doesn't necessarily mean we've had that physical experience. It's kind of an interesting concept that was shared with us with another dowser. So, um,
So how does dowsing work? You have the pendulum
mhm.
and then the string and it spins one way for yes and one way for no. Is that
Yes,
correct?
and yes, that's right. So, well, we do directional, so yes and no, and then spinning to increase or amplify an energy if you want to raise your energy or raise your living space energy. And then counterclockwise is to clear, eliminate anything you'd like to release, whether that be like an old contract from another lifetime, non-beneficial entities that have kind of gathered around, psychic cords, curses, kinds of things. Because some of those things, we'd like to say, we don't really get a clean slate automatically when we come in. And
Mm.
really, everything, at least this is my belief system, everything that's with us now, anything that we're clearing now is also clearing from a past time.
Okay.
Everything is currently with us. And that's a lot, I think, why people come for healing, because there's something that's troubling them. And a lot of times in this lifetime, people who come with certain ailments, right, whether it be respiratory or a skin problem, this will show up from another lifetime.
Mm.
And
I've heard that.
so that's one of the beautiful things with the spirit doctor work, is they'll go back into that lifetime, bring it forward to clear it, so you're not carrying that, but it has to just sort of get to the original source of it. And Yeah, I mean, everything starts in the energy realms and then comes into the physical realm in terms of illness or disease. It always starts in the energy realm. So that's always a fascinating thing. So if somebody's having an issue, then often they will go back and say, here's what took place. And it's not always really clear what century it is. Sometimes I'll have an idea because I see something or they say something that gives me the idea of maybe when it was, or the client may know. A lot of times the clients will have experiences where they get insights or have, a lot of times it tracks together, my experience and their experience. But that's been, I'm going to say that's been hands down always the case, that anything that we're experiencing in this lifetime as an illness is often coming from another time, another trauma, like a trauma in another lifetime.
That really chimes in. I think it helps to understand it. I think we have 7 bodies. I forget. I don't. There's the mental body, the physical, the astral body, the etheric body. I'm getting them all muddled up here. I'm not very good at memorizing them. My metaphysics teacher is kind of me for this now. But I think it helps to understand that when you die, you leave the physical body, and that's one shell gone.
Yes.
And that's, and then you'll also leave an astral body, and that floats near the dead body for a while, and then that decays, and then you go to sleep on the before we pass over to the astral planes. We go through a period of sleep, and then that body dies, and then we go on to live on the astrals in an astral body, obviously, because it's a different matter, different frequency, and then we're reborn through the womb, and we accumulate that soul fashions another physical body, but it's using using the what's the word, the template or the energy or because the aura, the samskaras, the scars on the aura are from all your past lives, and you're constantly writing with every breath good or bad karma, these samskaras, these scars on the aura, for good or for bad. And so they come to fruition, and if you're fashioned from this clay of energy and memories, and your subconscious remembers every life throughout your whole existence, and your higher self as well, your superconscious, and it's just your consciousness which is wrapped up, so we can get experience in this. We can concentrate down on. Then it stands to reason that all these past injuries and imperfections, because if we were all perfect, and if we were all, we'd have all the abilities. We wouldn't be here if we weren't.
I think that's probably where we're exactly right. We probably wouldn't be here. Or I think some of us have returned here too as well, for a certain time period. But that's a fascinating education that you have, Jack. That's through this society. It's beautiful. I mean, the spirit doctors talk about, so they talk about a tear in the fabric. I mean, it could be one of these energy bodies. That's what we see, a tear in the fabric that we're going to, create wholeness with, or we're going to heal here today. Just different way of, different terminology.
Yeah, because they must see it in that flow of energy thing, and it's interesting.
Well, also, I don't have the background that you do.
I'm new. I'm a student. So I've been studying it 2 years, but I'm just I'm faster to preach and faster to teach. Before I know everything. I'm just kind of sharing my journey, and so I get to speak to people who are much more evolved than me. And it was good. What you said about coming back here was quite interesting, because I think one day in the future, because what you're doing is you're working with people on other realms, so doctors who've passed on and are coming back, going back and coming back, and that there are ascended masters who have gone through enlightenment, cosmic consciousness, and then ascension. So they fashioned ascended bodies, so they live for thousands of years, and they are ascended masters. They're beyond my comprehension. And those guys, one day the gates of the mountains will open, and they will come out and go in among the universities and walk amongst us. And like, probably, I don't know this for sure, but remember the Greek gods, how the gods were among us, maybe this that they had the superpowers. So the gods are the ascended masters who have all these powers beyond the physical body.
That's also just curious. if, here we are in our physical forms, if, with the right timing, divine alignment, however you want to speak about it, that merging can happen, that merging can happen. Because I think the thing for me that in making this, following this path that I followed, was that there was so much that I didn't realize about who we are as humanity, who we are as a person, who we truly are, and what we're capable of, right? What we're capable of. And this is really clear. Well, we're capable of expanding ourselves enough that the multidimensional healing can come through us, and we're expanded enough to be able to work with a tool, the pendulum, and ask our spirit guides, spirit world, and I call them spirit doctors, to actually clear energy, change energy, right? That we're that powerful if we have the tools to do it.
Yeah.
You
Gosh, it
know,
was just so blocked. I mean, they need
I
more people like you who could just tune into them. They must be just, they might be right next to me now shouting.
know.
Incredible.
Tuning in, that's the big piece, yeah.
So what practices do you do do you have any daily practices to tune yourself, develop yourself?
Well, it kind of comes and goes. I wish I could say yes. Not when I'm in the work. Yes, I do a meditation every day, and I mean, for me, I can meditate while I'm walking. So I love doing yoga. It really helps me to settle in my physical body, and also to just to settle in. I think the biggest thing for all of us is to find ways to quiet the mind and let everything settle in the body, and we get really distracted, which I do as well. And it's just a matter of dropping those distractions away and getting really quiet. And then there's so much that's there. Like you say, all of a sudden you can turn and begin to talk to your spirit guide, when we
So what do you teach in the first level then? How can anyone listening to this begin to tune in, is it simply letting go? Is it simply going into the silence?
I think letting go is really huge, as well as just, a lot of times closing the eyes, because right away we start taking away some of the outside world, and just allowing through the breath. Our breath is key and so powerful. And so whatever kind of breath work one might study, but just simple breathing in and out through the nose, and allowing that breath to really bring you into the present moment, right? And keep staying in the present moment. And then if you have an intention for that meditation to connect with a guide, or to connect with your higher source self, or a higher spirit, just have the intention, and then open to receive. But it's a huge surrender process. And then comes into trust, right? Trusting.
Do you think you had to be in Ecuador to tune in originally to get to that level for you're at?
It was a very, yes, bottom line, yes. But I don't think everybody needs to do that. That was my path. I mean, we can do that sitting anywhere, but it was a way for me to really drop in deeply, and went through a lot of transformative processes. The reason we went to Ecuador was to leave the United States for a while, and to sort of come away from, that way of being, that way of thinking, and seeing if it would change us. We were already doing some healing work, and we went through major changes, and we're living next to indigenous people, so that was a beautiful way. Just really surrendering ourselves, leaving any of our certificates or plaques behind, and sitting in circle and just absorbing what was happening, and connecting with the land. Was really good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's so difficult in everyday life. I mean, I have to put on a podcast or go into a meditation room to tune in to because otherwise I'm doing my daily stuff and I'm very disconnected. So
Yeah.
It is
But
really.
you can start to do it, Jack, when you're doing dishes too.
I have a
You
dishwasher
can. Oh, you do see? This is the problem with modern conveniences.
though.
No, I love the dishwasher after not
Yeah.
having one for 10 years. Oh, how
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Well, it's delightful talking with you.
Yeah.
Just
No, it's
fun to share.
yeah, because we have these different perspectives, and but how can you find also on your website you talk about a soul's mission and astrology, and how, obviously you found your mission. Let's not
Yeah,
your search is over. The work has just begun though.
I
What?
think so.
Yeah. What? What about the rest of us? Do you help other people with find their mission?
Yes, and one of the things we love to do, which we'll resume, is kind of immersion retreats where people really step out of their environment. But however, um, most of that is accomplished through clearing that which is in the way, and that's really with the healing or the energy dowsing work. Because even if we're calling in Reiki energy or calling in beautiful energies, if there's non-beneficial energies sitting within us, then it kind of just gets laid on top. So what we want to do is what we always think about as dowsers is we want to clear away that which is non-beneficial and then invite in what we'd like to have in our life. Yeah. Well, that's just a way that's our perception and way of working. And so it's just when we're together with people or even on these Zoom calls, it's a combination of breath work, meditation, spirit doctor work, and then the energy dowsing work. It's a combination of all.
Tuning in.
Tuning in. But that's it, tuning in.
Mm. Yeah, that's one of the message I'm getting as well, even without it.
Oh, beautiful. Good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And we can do it. There was a really wonderful recorded session that Wayne Dyer, I don't know if you know who he was, and he's passed away. He was in the States. He was one of the first people in the 70s and 80s to write about the law of attraction and just different things. And he met with Esther Hicks, who channels a group of beings called Abraham. And they got together for this interview together. It was beautiful. And he says to her, and he's very well known at the time, this is towards the end of his life, he says, Esther, oh no, he started speaking to Abraham. He said, I have this really interesting thing where I get up at 3 or 3:30 in the morning, and that's the time, and that's when I really connect. That's when spirit really speaks to me, 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And Esther channels her guides, and they said, Wayne, that's because that's the only time you're listening. They're speaking to you all the time. And I love that story because it's so pertinent for us, and this time as well. It's like that as to the tuning in, right?
Yeah.
And he took that really well. He was very well established. He's like,
When I was in India, and when I first heard about the Ethereal Society, I was having some treatments, and I started having these. I started waking up every night at 3:33.
Oh, right.
I look over the clock. The next night I go to the bathroom, come back, look at the clock. So,
Yeah.
so they were maybe tapping me on the shoulder at that time when I was the only time I was in my drunken stupor of a consciousness able to tune in. So yeah, that resonates. And I know sometimes I do wake up at that time, and I shouldn't roll over, but I do.
Yeah.
Because I know more advanced yogis, they do, in the theory, they teach a lot of pranayama in the Ethereal Society and mantra, even though it's service, Kundalini yoga, Dr. King, he did. So after World War II, he did 10 years of every day, 8 hours of advanced yoga practices, as well as having a full-time job. So he
dedicated.
Yeah, so he'd probably, because when you do that much breath work and much, you don't need to sleep as an optional thing, I think. So he was able to raise Kundalini up to the crown chakra, and he became a master in London in that time. I mean, that's just beyond my comprehension of how you could do it because the Buddha is in the gardens, in the mountain, in the forest, and Jesus in Tibet or in the desert. To do that
Yeah, the 40 days of the desert.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, really resonates. Dr. King, he so because with these mediums, you can only get someone on your level, and that's obviously what you're getting. You're getting someone on your level who can, because I think someone too much higher, if they can't go through a medium on a because it's just
Oh,
too much voltage. You know, you
I
fry their
believe that. I
fry their
believe that.
nadis.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. Yeah.
So Dr. King, he was a master, so he could tune into the master. So he went into samadhi
Hmm.
in about 2.5 minutes each time, and he could tune in. He saw a beam, and he could hold these onto his, I think it was his throat chakra, and then he could speak as the masters from other planets.
Oh, incredible.
Because all the other, on the other planets there are other realms as well. So obviously we're very base level. So if we go to another planet, there's nobody there. But all these UFOs, all those planets are on higher levels. So those are all that the UFOs are coming from there, but they can flick through the realms. Um,
Yeah.
so Dr. King, he was able to give us these fantastic teachings because his radio was on, he had a big set basically.
Yes, exactly. It sounds like it. But that's that piece that I just call expansion, that I mean, really, I think that's the goal, that we expand ourselves as much as possible, right?
Well, you're completely devoting your life to service. So you're just probably raised Kundalini naturally now, or in a
Mm.
very life very soon, and because that's what we're supposed to do. We're in the Aquarian age now. I mean, this is the age of service to others, and this is what we have
I
to do.
love that I saw the original meaning of the word crown, you know, because
Oh,
we
yeah,
have the kings and the queens and the crowns. The original meaning of the crown, also the crown chakra, was to serve thy kingdom, to serve thy people.
really,
Yeah, isn't that beautiful?
yeah,
And it really puts to light where we are in our collective consciousness.
yeah.
But I think we're coming back around to that.
One of the books Dr. King channeled was the Nine Freedoms. So this is the most
Mm.
advanced teachings ever to be given to humanity, and the first three service freedoms, because we chose free will over freedom in our past
Oh,
incarnation.
yeah.
So the first is bravery, love, and then service.
Oh, interesting.
And then there's like I said, enlightenment, cosmic consciousness, ascension. And then if you ascend, you can choose to stay behind and serve, or you go on to another interplanetary existence, then a Saturnian existence, and
Mm.
then solar existence. You live on the sun as giving out sunlight.
Oh my goodness, Jack. This is fascinating. I've never heard any of this. Is beautiful. It really gives us a lot to look forward to.
And then I'll keep going because
So,
you're listening.
yeah,
But
totally listening.
so after the nine freedoms, so that's our level. That's just the basic level. Yeah, and then after that, you can go on to eventually. So as below, as above. So the
Yeah.
consciousness merges through plant life, insect life, animal life, human life. We are merged soul consciousness from other,
Yeah.
uh, you know, other lower life forms, and then as above. So you gradually merge with other life forms who vibrate at the same frequency, integrating greater and greater consciousness. So the Mother Earth is merged beings. She is a master, a
Oh,
supreme master, a living goddess. She is millions of lives evolved. So imagine Jesus and the Buddha and Krishna and all the masters we've seen, and imagine their masters, all those people, millions of years evolved and merged together. And you probably have a fraction of the idea of the consciousness that it takes to make a planet.
wow.
And then a planet is even planets make suns, make a galaxy as a living being, and even a galaxy can't go back to God because it has not yet transmuted matter. So eventually, we merge. So when you look through the Hubble telescope picture, you're seeing super evolved beings, and eventually they will go back to God
Oh,
in some way.
through no non-matter. This is so beautiful, and I love this teaching. What I love also the aspect of the earth, and the integration of all the different kingdoms, right? one time I was working with a woman. She was actually a landscape architect. She was working with the soil. She ended up doing beautiful. She did also shamanic journey, and she does beautiful mandalas. So she journeys to the flower kingdom with a flower, and she sees the form in a mandala, the essence of that flower in a form, and she brings the form back and she creates the form. She's created a beautiful book. Her name is Gay Gessling. Yeah, Gay Gessling. Anyway, I was working with her. Anyway, the spirit doctors had said something very beautiful to her. They said the flowers were the first light beings on this planet, and that she was one of them. She's come back, of course, we come back, but that she was one of these beautiful light beings. And it, just interesting, the thread that we make.
Yeah, because there is only one consciousness, and we're all
Yeah.
just expressions of the.
Okay.
So it's like the bits of the thread fall off and come back, get woven in, and yeah.
Yeah. So, Jack, the society is called the Etheric Society.
Aetherius means
Aetherius.
one
Okay.
who travels through the ethers, and it's
Okay.
it's a tiny organization, but a couple of thousand members, but because it's the religion of the future, it's UFOs and yoga, it's Christian mysticism, it's theosophy, and like Madame Blavatsky was one of the first to talk about. I think she was the first to talk about the law of attraction, and she founded a theosophical society, and but this is even newer teachings, and it's ahead of its time. So it's also the Master Jesus. He channeled the 12 blessings. It's a Sermon on the Mount updated with a cosmic element. So we send love to the earth, the laws of karma, the galaxy, the sun, the galaxies. So it's raising our consciousness. And so Jesus and the Buddha, they were also interplanetary beings who incarnated here in our life cycle, because karmically they couldn't just, same reason they can't land today. So because there was an element of selfishness to the spiritual teachings, you could go, you can advance yourself, and then you kind of go back to nirvana after you've raised Kundalini all the way. That was the kind of message. You go into the monasteries or the caves, you do the practices, and then you can go out in service when you reach the crown, you see. But now, because of the time we're closer to a change, its service is the karma, is the teaching of the age. So we have to, so exactly what you're doing, we have to be in service and put aside do our development practices in any time we have available, but it's service to others in these times. Exactly what you're doing. Spiritual healing is number one. So
thank you. No, I've learned so much here.
Yeah, well, maybe if you can ask the spirit doctors if Aetherius Society is as big as on the other realms. There's supposed to be fantastic temples there, and I'm sure they've heard of it. So
I'm sure they have too. I'm sure we'll have a little conversation about it after this call. This is awesome. Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't.
Well, this is what
that conversation.
Yeah.
That's more interesting than the conversation we've just had. Why don't you?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you should be having a podcast.
I'll send you. Oh no, I'll send you a little report.
That would be great.
But it is beautiful, because I somehow, when I heard from you, it was like, oh yes, connect with Jack, not really knowing who you were, and just, well, of course, through the college, mentioning the college, but it was just a feeling. And as I was walking today, I thought, oh, I see what I see here. Then I just had this image of opening the faucets, right? We're opening the faucets, letting it all come through, letting it flow. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure many members of the society will be interested because I'm doing my practices to my healing, but I don't feel so much power flowing through. So it could be great to have some, way like this because healing. Who doesn't want to be a healer? Who would not? If you could have a superpower, who would not want to be a healer when you see so many people suffering? I mean,
I think that's why this organic unfolding of the timing of the practitioner program coming into a form, I see now, as it came into 2018 to 2019, that New Year's weekend, was perfect timing for this time now, because it was like calling all healers forward, step up to this call, And so I always just, I do whatever I need to do for putting some information out, but I just sort of leave it also up to the spirit doctors and just say, go take a visit to whoever, you feel is ready to have the knock on the door.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it's going to grow, it's going to snowball, people coming to help with promotion and administration. Now you've connected with the College of Psychic Studies as well. I'm sure that will.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm no doubt. No doubt.
So it's beautiful to see how that's your society and how things are, complementary, how they're working side by side. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
We need all of that.
100%. We need more light workers, more.
Right.
Yeah, we need to raise our consciousness, and even just having a conversation with you is just, I feel my consciousness raising now. I'm tuning in. I've taken a little step forward.
Beautiful. Yeah, me too. I've taken a step more this direction. I can feel it.
Oh, gosh. Oh, right.
Yeah, wow. Thank you, Jack. So Jack, do you work with this in your music in terms of yourself, like what you've learned? Does it come through you? Are you a composer? I think you're a composer.
I do quite cerebral music. So I have another podcast. I have the Mysticast for my. I did start together with Pod Songs. I had a podcast where I interview guests and I write a song about everyone.
Yeah, wow.
And so I did a lot of spiritual songs for that. I'll send you some. One of them's called The Healer. I think you're going to like that one.
I would love to hear that. Yeah.
But they're quite cerebral songs, meaning that the lyrics, they're not relaxing. They're very mental songs.
Well, there's a place for everything, and I often will play music in my courses that I teach or the programs, because it is, it's one of the most beautiful arts, the vibration, the sound.
Well, it crosses, probably the only art form that crosses all through the realms. So, even though there's no arts, only science. That's what we're told on the highest realms. Everything is a science. So healing is a science as well. So I'm doing my music. So I won't follow you. I am tempted to follow your healing course, but I won't be doing it because I'm pushing all my energies into the this promotion at the moment. But then maybe later I will come back to you. I am 100% resonating with it. That will be a fantastic.
Jack, that will be amazing. So the door is opened. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. This has been lovely to connect with you and whoever's listening. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Susan. I'll put all the links to your websites in the show notes and everything.
Okay.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.